And we're back with another special edition of the Vulcan Nation podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Barnhart, Director of Alumni Relations. With me today, we have a very special guest, Ray Shonk, class of 2019. He's a master trainer and exercise science specialist and a member of CalU's 2020 class of under 40 recipients. Ray, welcome to the Vulcan Nation.
I'm happy to be here.
We appreciate you taking some time to join us today. I know you're pretty busy, and so we'll be very respectful of that. Along those lines, we like to get right down to business here on the show and allow our guests to introduce themselves to the audience, kind of your background, what brought you to CalU, and what you're doing today.
Well, currently I'm here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, in my my own personal training studio. I originally got, I guess you could say, pulled over to CalU when I was teaching at Grand Valley State University here in Grand Rapids. And I was with them for about 5 years, and then got notification probably about my 5th year saying, you need to have a degree to work here. So I'm like, okay, well, shoot, my choice is get let go or get the degree. So did some research, even though they offered me like a really good discount on tuition. I looked around for something that fit more of my current credentials through NASM. So one of my NASM mentors, when I first got started, brought up CalU. He's an alumni. And so I looked into it more, got registered for classes, and just kind of took off. I actually really enjoyed the curriculum there.
No, that's awesome. And like you said, you made a good comment there about it being very much applicable to, your background as a NASM, NASM. And for those of you that aren't aware, NASM is the National Academy of Sports Medicine. They offer a lot of various certifications in fitness and personal training, exercise science. So Ray, as a master trainer, has multiple of those, plus his advanced degree from CalU. So how does that, let's talk a little more about that, Ray. Like, how has that really, affected your work with clients, maybe your take on exercise science, and what you're doing in the industry?
Well, one thing I noticed is a lot of what NASM covered was also covered in my classes. So I will admit it did make my classes a little bit easier for me. But honestly, the credentials from CalU have helped a lot. A lot of people tend to take people more seriously that have a degree over just certifications. All in all, the education wise, it's very similar. But the degree definitely made a difference, especially with working in higher education like Grand Valley. Needing the degree just to be an adjunct at their facility. To be honest, it was a little concerning at first because I didn't want to, be in school for another 4 years when I was, already in my late 30s into my, going into my 40s.
Sure.
But, really, the professors I worked with at CalU were so incredibly helpful, as well as my advisor and everything else. It just made it incredibly easy to get through and really no struggle.
That's the name of the game, right? Especially, and it's always, at least in my opinion, like tougher when you're an adult, because now it's like you've got all these things to balance, home life, work, school, paying the bills. And, there's a lot of things that you don't think of when you're like a 19-year-old kid in college. It's a little different, later in the game. So I think that does play into, the convenience, I guess, more so than ease. I don't know if maybe I'm not right with terminology, but whatever. So we're talking about your story, right? And that, our current marketing campaign for prospective students is, to unlock your story. CalU can help you to maybe develop skills or unlock pathways or help you on a pathway you're already on towards your future success. So are there any in your story, right? Are there any specific skills or maybe insights or, wisdom or habits or whatever, things that you've picked up to help improve what you've been doing, in exercise science?
Um, Honestly, I think the biggest thing I picked up in all of my time working, because honestly, I've been in the workforce since I was like 15. Um, the biggest thing I picked up was don't chase the money. The biggest thing I picked up was probably do what you love doing. And for me, I didn't figure out what I love doing until I was in my 30s. So, I went through so many different jobs, from video store clerk to a due diligence specialist in commercial lending. And it was my 30s when I figured out, hey, I need to be a personal trainer. That's, I love helping people. I love fitness. How can I make this happen? And that's where I got into, okay, I'm going to check out NASM, see what this hype is about. How do I do it? And it was probably 2 months into my, into being a personal trainer that I decided, I'm going to leave the bank now and I'm going to do this full time. I'm going to follow my passion here, which I will admit for myself and my wife and newborn kid at home was, it was scary. It was very scary because I'm going from making really good money in my banking career to I don't know where my next paycheck's coming from. And I will say it paid off because I ended up going from just bottom of the rung personal trainer to personal training manager across 10 facilities. Then back to personal trainer because I preferred that over managing everyone else. And being a little stubborn that I am, I decided, I can do this better. I can do this better than this big box facility. So I ended up opening up my own personal training facility out of my garage, nonetheless. So I actually had to get part of my house zoned for commercial work, which was no easy task.
I was gonna say that's something you don't hear about every day,
Right. Luckily, I did a lot of contract work for the city as far as fitness goes. So I had my foot in the door.
That's
So a
good.
little bit of help.
Yeah, right.
And then after 2 years of being in my garage, I moved into my own facility. And I, coming from a commercial lending background, which I do think helped a lot, I went into it debt free with no loans, no overhead, just rent and utilities. And it's the first year was a bit of a struggle like any business would be.
Sure.
But here I am now with a few trainers that work under me, as well as massage therapist, and yeah, it's going good, and we're looking at expanding again within the next year because the opportunity is starting to present itself.
That's awesome, and it's cool to hear you taking that kind of holistic wellness approach, adding the massage therapy piece in, and it's really cool to see your success and your passion growing this, and I'm sure there's a lot more good things to come from there. So we're excited to see that continue. When we talk about your story, right, or any story really, there's always a good supporting cast. So and you kind of spoke on this a little bit already, but who are the folks that, whether they're, like your family or maybe cohort mates or professors that you connected with at Cal, who are the folks that helped you along the way as you pursued your degree and as you launched kind of your passion into fitness?
I would definitely say my boss at Grand Valley State University, because they gave me a lot of leeway to make sure I keep my job there, as well as continue on to get my degree. I think they gave me a 5-year window to get my 4-year degree. And, that alone, when they could have just said, you don't have your degree, you're out.
Right.
Instead, they decided, we're going to give you more time to, finish things up and get going. And then, I got a puppy in my gym, and he, making sure he's not eating everything in sight. My advisor at Cal U in the exercise science department, huge help with getting me squared away with my classes. He kind of told me what I needed to do, what classes I could test out of. That was huge. It was an incredible help because I could honestly see myself just going through all the classes that I don't need to go through to get this degree when, you know, I already had the credentials behind me for it. So, you know, being open in communication was huge through CalU, and everyone I talked to in that department was incredibly helpful. I will say that I honestly, I wish I could remember her name, but she was my professor in my sociology class. She almost had me talked into double majoring in sociology because I really enjoyed that class and I was really good in that class. But I'm like, wait, let's pull the reins back a little bit here. Let me focus on one thing at a time.
Right.
And, you know, honestly, with getting into fitness, it wasn't even originally my idea to become a personal trainer. It was actually my wife who said, you know, you like helping people, you love fitness, why not put it together and be a trainer? And then, you know, on top of that, my clients that I had as a personal trainer were huge support for me. I mean, they're all like family to me now, to the point where they even invite me out to their family functions, and I invite them to mine. And it's almost strange because, you know, in some cases I don't know their kids. You know, I'm going to like their kids' graduation and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know who these people are. Why am I here? But, you know, it was support like that through my clients, some close friends and family that really kind of pushed me through. And matter of fact, it was my mother-in-law that paid for my whole trip to go to graduation.
Oh, that's cool. She come through in the clutch, right? That's awesome.
Right.
No, that's great. And I think that's important, you know, especially, you know, being in that online environment and trying to make everything work. It's cool to see you, you know, we're able to strike that balance very good. And I'm not surprised about the sociology thing. That's either Dr. Schweitzer or Dr. Larson. And
Dr. Schweitzer.
Yeah, and when you said she tried to get you to, you know, minor or change your major, that's Dr. Schweitzer if I know. She's
She was
great.
great to work with.
Oh yeah, I had her for class too, and yeah, absolutely, she's a pleasure to work with. All right, so let's play a little. Let's have a little fun here on the podcast, dude. We're not all seriousness here. We like to kind of get to know our guests as well a little bit more personally. So, what's the coolest part of your job?
Honestly, the coolest part of my job is seeing my clients change over time. I want to say most recently, you know, what was it? Last week, Wednesday, one of my clients commented how I completely changed their life and perspective on fitness, because they had that mind frame of, if you're not leaving the gym exhausted and sore to the point of barely walking, you're not doing it right. But now it's completely different for her. She's getting a workout in 30 minutes and, you know, she's feeling better, losing weight, getting stronger. It's, you know, it's great to see how you can make a difference in someone else's life.
Absolutely, I think that's pretty impactful. You know, when we get down to it, being able to help people change for the better, and then you observe it, and they notice it too, and then everyone's like, yeah, you know, that's always been a big thing for me too. You know, with an exercise science background, so that's cool to hear. All right, so your experience as a CalU student in the online program is a little different. Obviously, you know, you weren't on campus. We know that you're, you know, taking classes back home from Michigan, but is there a memory that sticks out about your time in Global Online, one that you recall more fondly than others? Maybe, you know, whether it's something funny or, you know, enlightening or whatever.
I think one of the funny memories I had was actually in one of my English classes, where we had to do a paper and it had to be associated with what our major was. So mine being exercise science. Going into the paper, you know, you have to cite so many sources and blah, blah, blah. Well, one of the sources I cited was actually a book that I wrote. And I, you know, got the email. I'm like, who is this, you know, Ray Shonk? And I'm like, oh, that's me. It's from my book. And it's like, I had no idea you wrote a book. And I'm like, yeah, so it's actually on this subject that I'm writing about for my paper. And it was, there was like almost a long pause. You could feel it in the air of, I'm not even sure where to go with this right now, but we'll just see what the paper looks like. And, you know, it actually turned out really good. I was kind of happy with the paper. But yeah, I got a lot of help even from the fitness community. So even my one of my fitness mentors, you know, took a look at the paper to, you know, give me his input and all that. And I'm like, okay, no, this is incredibly helpful. I have all these extra sources that I can work from now. But yeah, that was probably the best one. And then when I went to graduation, I forget who it was I talked to, but they're like, you know, why don't you consider teaching, you know, online at Cal U? And I'm like, oh, let's back up here. I'm already teaching at one university, and then I have a business to run. There's only so much Ray can do in one day. But it's something that I've considered potentially applying for, you know, another online position just to do it.
Yeah, right. You can't have like, you can always have like, you know, 15 side hustles, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, right. You know, why
It's
not?
just, you know, what's sleep? You don't need that. Like, come on, right?
Right. You know, I'm already in my gym from usually 5 a.m. till about 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. So
You know, it's another couple hours a week. I mean, you know, it's nothing, right?
exactly. I mean, on the plus side, I can see the back door of my house from the back door of my business. So
I guess that's true too. That has its, you know, has its benefits there for sure.
exactly.
So do you commute home for lunch then? Like just walk across the street?
Yeah, it literally takes me 2 minutes to walk to my house from work. So yeah, when I get time, I'll go there. And since my kids are, you know, homeschooled right now because of uh, the whole pandemic, I get to go home and see my kids on lunch. Of course, um, one of the excuses that happens from time to time is, well, you know, you teach at a university, you can help teach the kids too. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that is true, but slightly different.
Yeah, just a little bit, you know. Absolutely. All right. Well, while we're on the subject of lunch, and I know where my head's at, we're, you know, we're always trying to find out from our alumni two things: what's their favorite food, and you know, their favorite place to eat. So, do you have a recommendation for any of our alumni who maybe live in Michigan or would be traveling? You know, what's the best place to check out in the Grand Rapids area? What's your go-to restaurant?
One place I go to every week religiously is called Thai Express. I used to work with the owners back when I was at working at a bank. She opened up her own Thai restaurant, and it is by far the best Thai food in Grand Rapids. So I end up going there every week, and it's to the point now where they wait for my call and answer, "Hey Ray, how's it going?" As soon as I call in to pick up my order. So they're amazing food. Price wise, they're incredibly reasonable. It's like you know, eating at, you know, a cheap restaurant, but you get high quality food. It's an absolute must have if you like spicy Thai food.
All right. So, what are we getting? What's the go-to order there?
One of my favorites is the stir fried glass noodles. They're like a really thin rice noodle, but also on top of that, there's like the drunken noodles.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, you're not going to get trashed off them, but they are delightful. And then stir fried chili paste is another one of mine that's really good. It's kind of sweet and spicy. It's not as, you know, make your hair burn out like you would think, but yeah, definitely the sweet and spicy aspect of that one.
Awesome, awesome. Well, for our viewership that's there, if you're traveling, make sure you check that place out and bring me back some pad thai. We won't have any, you know.
Oh, their pad thai is pretty legit.
All right, that's what we like to hear, you know. So I think if we might have to make a alumni visit out there to partake, perhaps. Well, Ray, I want to thank you again, man. I know you're super busy, but thanks for taking some time out of the day to talk to us here on the Vulcan Nation.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And before we sign off, you know, we always like to give our guests a last like parting shot, some words of wisdom, or you know, if folks maybe want to check your book out, where they could find it, or more information about your gym.
Oh yeah. So my book is called Calisthenics Quest. Total superhero kind of idea for fitness. So did a whole comic book theme because that's the kind of nerd I am. And then the gym Quest Fitness. We're located off of Division and 44th Street here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And The book Calisthenics Quest can be found on Amazon.
Awesome. Well, and we'll make sure we share the link out here whenever we post everything in our show notes, and so that way our viewers can find it as well. So, well, again, Ray, thanks a lot for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And for Ray Shonk, I'm Ryan Barnhart. This is the Vulcan Nation. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks.